Greetings, all of that. The thoughts that persist. Yeah. A lot of times when I do these live streams, depending on the topic, sometimes it's free flowing and it's easy going. Other times it's like sometimes I might just be taken aback by the topic and then think to myself like, "Oh, this is one of those, you know, should I be prepared?" No. I'm always going to wing it. 'Cause that's how we do. And that's how you get better. I was actually watching some early videos and I was paying attention to my speaking style and it was like, wow. I was saying things I no longer say. I definitely don't say. And at the same time, how my thoughts were coming out, you could tell I was like inexperienced, rusty. I'm not saying I'm a professional speaker right now or anything like that, but there are differences. With that being said, the thoughts that persist. As you can see in the thumbnail, I specifically chose indications. Like, I'm being indicative of certain groups, right? Um, and you can see that with the thumbnail. Now, the two main topics that exist that drive people up the wall for for a long time now, decades, if not longer. Height, predominantly a man thing, right? That bothers men. Especially, in my humble opinion, the group of men that is portrayed in the thumbnail, right? And then you have hair with women, especially the group that's portrayed that you see there in the thumbnail, in my humble opinion. Now, this is just my opinion, but when it comes down to this, and I think, we all fit this description, but we are influenced by culture, by everything we see, our upbringings, and we are influenced by the opposite gender. And unfortunately, that can influence us in a not so great way, where then folks are like, in unhealthy ways, thinking about how certain things just bother them, you know, growing up, how they think about things. And then they feel insecurities, self conscious, and it eats them up, you know? And to me, it's interesting because it's usually the ones with like the most exotic and prettiest hair that want to do everything in their power to not upkeep it and keep it healthy. but go somewhere else with it, mimicking whatever culture is influencing them to go in a completely opposite direction. And it's usually the ones that are quite honestly ranking amongst the tallest that are like, you know, so full of anxiety because they are not at the utmost extreme of where they think they should be, which on a global level is actually like quite ridiculous anyways, right? Now, with that being said, I'm not going to say if you want to do anything with your life that you shouldn't be able to. For example, if your teeth are really crooked, right? And you make the determination for yourself and say, well, I don't want to have, my smile like this. I just don't want it to be this way. Well, if you can do something about it and you're thinking like, yeah, I am going to do something about it, then, I'm not going to say what I just said and then not be open-minded to say, well, if you want to change something, you probably should. Now, if you truly think that you want to do that, and at the same time, you're also saying, I am going to do that, and I am willing to take the steps to make it happen, you can pretty much damn near do anything, you know? So if it's realistic and practical and it's something you're dead set on doing, why not? Then do it, you know? But if not, if you're not going to do it because for whatever reason that's crazy to you, then quit complaining. Or if you're not going to quit complaining, then just like focus elsewhere, I would say, you know? And always remember to think about like just be a good judge of character and be good to yourself. That's important, right? And so I mentioned, the height, I mentioned the hair. And another thing, especially for fellas, is like if they measure up, pun intended, like literally, do they measure up? Because that's another thing. Again, a lot of this has to do with the opposite gender influencing us. And then it's like the insecurities come out and we question ourselves. And when it comes to men measuring up, it's another thing because they're just so like brainwashed with everything they see around them, whether it's in that, like does size matter thing, like if it's that or if it's just your body in general, like you know I'm not big enough, I don't have like, so now it's height, it's mass overall, and it's do you measure up, right? So for the most part, you're only thinking that way for the most part, even though you can say I do this all for me. You're thinking this because you're influenced, and as a result, when you're influenced, then your insecurities come out. And now you're like, and again, I'm not one to say and not be open-minded to say, well, if you are able to realistically and practically say, I'm going to do something about this, and then you do it, well, then that's, and you're not complaining and you say, you know what, I'm going to make it happen, whether it's a financial thing or what have you. Like, you wait, you're patient, and when the time comes, you make it happen. And if that's the case, then you should do that, right? But like I said, in the meantime, in between time, if that's something you're going to do, then just push whatever you have to do to get it done eventually when the time is right, right? But if it's something you're just like, oh, this is never going to happen, then you probably should treat yourself right. And you probably shouldn't be beating yourself down because you think this is a hopeless situation. No, it's not. I see guys all the time like watch women degrade them by saying, "Oh, he's 5'9", and he's 5'9", so it's like what he's a midget, and then you run and take that to like you have like these women on TikTok that are like, the only reason she's saying that for the most part is because she's tall herself. Think about it. Whatever your height is, right? Let's say you're 5'11", right? If a woman is 5'9" and you're 5'11", chances are she's going to be like, I want a guy who's 6'3". Or if a girl's like 5'6", 5'7", yeah, she's probably going to look at 5'9" as being short. But you shouldn't then say that to yourself like every guy that's 5'9" is a shrimp. No, that's not the case. It's just these women are tall. Like, come on, like, this ain't no, like, most of the time, a girl who's like 5'1", 5'2", 5'3", she's not going to be like, oh, he's 5'9". He's a shrimp. He's way too short. So you probably, like, because it's anatomically speaking, and then obviously, if we're talking about opposite genders, if we're just talking about like attraction, right? Most men would want a female who's shorter, and most women would want a man who's taller, right? And if there's a nice little difference, probably better, right? But you shouldn't be thinking, like, are you, like, a lot of the guys that see this, right? Because they're just picking arbitrary numbers. 5'9", 5'8", 5'7", 5'6", 5'5", whatever, right? But you're never paying attention to how tall are these women? Because usually it'll be a woman that's 5'5" or taller. So then that makes sense, right? Because she's tall herself. Now, any woman who's between 5'5" and like 5'5", 5'6" and up, like 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", that's relatively tall. So of course she's going to be looking for a guy who's taller, just to be compatible in that sense. So you probably shouldn't be looking for those women. Out of a planet full of over 3 billion women, you're beating yourself down because these are the tall ones that are vocal about he's 5'9"? Come on now. And when it comes to the women that I'm singling out about, their hair, I've always said this. It's like, you have some of the prettiest hair that you could do things with your hair that nobody else can. And you choose to be like everyone else that you see in the mainstream. And then you use the reasoning of, oh, I want to fit in, I want to assimilate, I want to be not looked at a certain way at my job. Like, you say all this stuff, but in actuality, all you have to do is take care of your hair, because it's beautiful. And we take care of it, and it's natural, and it's growing out. Ain't nobody gonna say anything about that. And if they are, they're just a hater. And the fellas who think they're not sizing up, I tell you one thing. And again, I always, preface by saying you should be able to do whatever you want with any goal you have, right? But at the same time, when it comes down to it, when it comes to mass overall on your physique, one of the biggest things I personally have done, and that's not to say I don't want to, have muscles and all of that, because I do. I could stand to put on another 6, 7, 12 pounds from here. Lean muscle, though, over the next however many years it takes. I could always, right now, I'm a little slim, so I could stand to put on a little bit. But with that being said, one of the biggest level ups that happened over the last few years for me was getting the whole big thing as a man out of my existence. Like, I'm not obsessed over getting big anymore. And how liberating that was for me was like, it was incredible. It was really like, wow, that doesn't hold me captive anymore. And the other topic I mentioned about, measuring up, because the size matter, the size matter, the size matter. And guys go crazy over that too, right? A lot of guys go crazy over hair too. And if you want to, any of these things, limb lengthening, hair transplants, I wouldn't suggest any type of steroids. For mass, I would suggest just getting busy, practice the right habits, do it the right way, do it slow, gradually, and make it happen correctly. But when it comes to measuring up, also, the size matter, the size matter, the size matter. It's just like the whole, why are you looking for women? If you're 5'9", why are you looking at women that are 5'5"? Okay, she's pretty. Okay, she's gorgeous. Whatever. She dropped it. Oh, she has a banging personality. All of that. Great. She's 5'5". She's 5'6". You're 5'9". Chances are she's not going to feel feminine around you. So look for someone shorter. It's legit that simple. And I'm not saying every woman is superficial like that for you to think that way, but chances are when it comes down to like a biological sense of what really happens here, she wants to feel like a woman. So if you're 5'9", you should be looking for someone who's like 5'3" or 5'4". It is what it is. Likewise, when it comes to that measuring up thing, the size matter, the size matter, the size matter. Well, same thing. If you are like average, right? Let's say 5.1 bone press, right? By like 4.5 mid-rec girth. You should get a feel, because you can't tell what she's got down there. You don't know how shallow she is or how deep she is or any of that, right? How wide she is. You don't know none of that, right? But you should get a feel. If you know what you are and you're like, you're not packing a third leg, right? Because you're average. So then you should get a feel. If you feel a little insecure about that, same way I just told you about the height thing and how biologically she wants to feel like a woman. So if you're 5'9", you should probably be going for someone who's 5'3" or 5'4", right? Likewise, that's a little easy to see. You can gauge that because you can see it. But if you're in the courting like phase early on and you're dating someone, when it comes to measuring up, does size matter, but you're average, right? You're not packing. Crazy. So during that phase of dating, get a feel for what she likes. Because eventually it's going to get to that place where it's like you're talking about it and maybe it might go there, right? So before it even gets anywhere, the same way you're feeling her personality out, you're feeling what she's into, her morals, her principles, the height thing, all of that. Now you got the personality, you got a sense of how she is, you know, family oriented, whatever, any of that stuff. But the compatibility besides the height, when it comes down there, because it probably will eventually get there, right? So you want to know ahead of time. Are you wasting your time? You want to know ahead of time. Is that compatibility going to be right? So you should get a feel for what she's into. And then, like, probably cautiously probe, no pun intended, but cautiously probe into, like, what she's into. Maybe get into, like, sides type conversation. And then understand, like, without actually doing so yourself, you get a feel mentally of what she probably is, meaning her canal, like what her size is, what she is, without actually feeling it or being there or any of that, right? What's up, Braylon? So with that being said, then you will get an idea of, okay, this checked off, this checked off, this checked off. So you can see the height. You can easily interact with this person. So you can get a feel for what her mind is like, her personality is like. Is she family oriented, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that part, you have to be a little strategic, right? Because that's covered up. You're not going to be able to see that, right? So you got to, after you both kind of like, this is the dating phase, right? So after a little bit of time, you get to a place where, maybe gets into that type of a conversation, and then you get a feel, because you know what you are, so you get a feel for like what her size is. And then from there, you got to make a quick, you can't let these things drag. You got to get to a place where it's like, okay, we're not going to be compatible. And then as a result, you got to make a swift move. Otherwise, you're playing yourself, homie. You went to the dentist, Braylon. Tell me about it. Tell me what happened. Did they drug you up and were you on like laughing gas and you had to get something extracted? Were you Or were you just getting a checkup or cleaning or something like that? But what I was talking about, that's really it, you know? Oh, they took a tooth out because of the cavity? Oh, they filled the cavity and took a tooth out? Oh, baby tooth. Okay, cool. Yeah. And you're a baby, Braylon. That's why, like, as soon as you came in, I finished what I was talking about. Because that last part I was talking about was a little, you know, I got it done. I got it done. But um you're growing up, girl. That's what that means. You're turning into you're growing up and you're turning into a young lady. That's what's happening. And I'm glad to, you know, see you whenever. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm confusing you with another person that comes in here and is like, I forget her name now. Yeah, my fault. I'm confusing you with I just don't remember her name, but she's younger, And that's why, like, what I was talking about was a little bit like maybe not so appropriate for for her, but like I said, I got it done before, because she does come in from time to time, and I always have to be very cautious and very mindful when you have a minor, and because I'm sure, like, if this channel gets to a place where it's like, you know, chat is moving crazily, then I can't control that, right? Like, I can't do anything about that. I don't know who's who. It's just people, and I don't know if this person is 8 years old and the next one is like 80, and I don't know any of that, right? So it's not really my fault. I'm just gonna be talking. But for right now, I still kind of have, like, it's kind of like a personal vibe, right? So I kind of know who's who, and or at least I can see what's going on, and do my best. But yeah, it's good to hear you got your tooth taken out, and that taken care of. What happened? What happened at school? You got into a fight? A teacher got kicked out? The guidance counselor got caught doing something wrong? The gym teacher was going number 2 and everyone saw or heard about it? The history teacher was hung over? Yeah, I could keep going, but I'll let you say what happened. Oh no, that sounds like you were up to no good. The art teacher was about to. Oh no. Oh, so you were interrupting class, and that person was gonna write you up, but they didn't. So you got off with a warning. That's what ended up happening. It's like, Braylon, next time, you've been warned. Make sure next time this doesn't happen again, because if it happens again, detention, or whatever they call it in your school, you know. I guess it's a write up, right? Oh, so basically it's your word against hers. But you're saying she got the wrong person. So you were wrongfully accused of what she was trying to accuse you of. So it wasn't really you, it was someone else. Or she just thought you were doing something that you actually weren't. You know what it was? It was just the art teacher was tripping. That's just plain and simple what it actually was, you know? Yeah, so, those are the thoughts that are prevalent, and I just wanted to get in here and just come in here, chop it up quickly, speak about these topics. And really, like, I covered it in detail, but it really comes down to, like, ladies, don't trip, you know? You have beautiful hair. Just keep it healthy, grow it out. Fellas, don't trip. If she's too tall for you, find a shorter girl. It's that simple. Quit looking for the girls that are tall. Go for the ones that are shorter. It's that simple. You know how the girls always like, I'm going for the taller dude? You go for the shorter girls. It's that simple. And also, fellas, when it comes to your mass, try not to obsess so much over being so big, you know? Just do it the right way. Don't cut corners. Be healthy about it. Practice all the right habits, and put on proper lean muscle mass. And finally, fellas, when it comes to, do I measure up? You know, the size matter, the size matter, the size matter. Make sure you kind of like quit rushing. Even if you're younger, quit rushing so you don't have these insecurities. Size up her. The same way as a guy, if you're going for a girl, go for a girl in accordance to your height. So that doesn't bother you anymore if it bothers you. Same thing. And how you measure up, the size matter, the size matter, the size matter. When it comes down to it, size her up by actually having a conversation ahead of time. And if it seems like you're not about to be compatible where it counts down there, don't do it to yourself. Don't rush and get yourself into something physical with someone when you already know ahead of time that you're probably not going to be compatible with that person. Don't do it to yourself. And that's really it, you know? Yeah, I appreciate your time, Braylon. You get your sleep. I'm about to go to sleep soon too, myself. I gotta eat in a few hours anyways. I gotta do a few things. But yeah, thank you for checking in, and next time we'll catch each other again. And yeah, that's really it. You know, those are the topics I wanted to cover. And I'm just putting it out there like that. Like, if I was able to give some information that was able to see it, Braylon, help anyone, and like maybe give you a different perspective on like how you should maybe, and I'm not saying, you know, any of these things. You can get hair transplants. You could do limb lengthening. You could work out like a monster. You could do PE work. So any of those 4 things you can actually work on. Maybe you think hair transplants are too extreme. Maybe you think limb lengthening is too extreme. Maybe you think PE is too extreme. Maybe you think taking the slow approach and not going the trend approach or the TRT approach is too hard. Well, you do what you got to do. But at the same time, you can make any of these things happen if you really wanted to. Just like if your teeth were crooked, you could get braces, whether it's traditional or Invisalign. And if your eyes were not all that great and you wear glasses, you can get LASIK done. You can make any of these things happen. That all, you know? There's nothing else I really have to say about any of this stuff. And I put it out in a way where I think, like, if you really wanted to make sure you're dating the right type of people, screen them ahead of time. And I'm not just talking about their personalities. Screen them physically to make sure you're compatible with them. That way, none of this will play on your insecurities, where you get self-conscious because someone's like, you know, if something goes wrong, they weren't the right person for you to begin with. You just caught a vibe with one another this way. But you weren't actually thinking about the physical other than just body parts that were attracting you. But you weren't actually thinking about compatibility physically other than, ooh, I like the way her this looks, or her that looks, or her lips look, or her eyes look. You were just looking at that. But you weren't thinking about yourself when you said, am I going to be compatible with this person height-wise? And am I going to be compatible with this person when we get it popping? That's what it comes down to. Because that's what plays on your insecurities. So if you would have not rushed off of just lust, but actually thought, am I going to be compatible with this person physically? In our physical differences and gauging that person to understand. And ladies could do this too with a guy. You size him up. Is he tall enough for me? And at the same time, have that conversation. If you know your canal is a certain size, then you need to know exactly what that size needs to be on your potential partner if you're in the dating, phase of getting to know this person. Because it's not just the personality. And that's what it comes down to. You should be physically gauging that person so that there's no issues later on. And you just did it for, because you rushed and you caught a vibe with that person. And then you let that supersede everything. There were a lot of signs during the whole process of dating that you just swerved. And if you would have paid closer attention to those signs, took heed to them, and actually paid attention to them and said to yourself, you make the difficult decision and you cut off before it gets any further, because you're already vibing with the person. You're already starting to get the little inkling of I like this person. You're getting a little too far into where you shouldn't be going, right? Because these are things that bring you insecurities and persistent thoughts. Don't do it to yourself, So that's really it. It's, I knew I wanted to make this a quick one, and I just wanted to jump in here, point these things out. If anyone didn't catch it, feel free to go back. I think most of the topics I bring up are, and that's not me tooting my own horn. I just think they're beneficial and they're powerful and they're worth actually, listening to. That's just my humble opinion. But yeah, that's really it. Hope everyone has a good remainder of your Wednesday. And depending on where you are, sleep tight. And let's crush the remainder of this week as well. And with that being said, I'm checking out now. Till the next time, you already know. Take care.